Hopefully we're coming through here today. Hey, welcome to today's webinar. Today is going to be charting on the Nadex platform, and my name is Adam. I'm going to be taking you through all of our awesome charting packages today. So let's jump right in here. I know we're starting just a minute behind schedule. I do actually already have a question in chat, which is fantastic. So we'll get to that question. Before we do any questions or anything else, we do always have to go over this nice disclaimer here. So basically, what this disclaimer says, I'll let you read through it, but basically it says trading on Nadex involves risk. Trading anywhere is going to involve risk. So make sure that you are aware of those risks before you go out and trade. There's no such thing as any sort of guaranteed return in anything. So make sure you're aware of the risk. Make sure you are aware that any money that you put up in any trading can be lost. The other thing is you want to be making sure that you want to trade with those discretionary income. Don't trade with money you need for anything other things. Also, I'll be placing trades on the platform today to show functionally how the charts work. None of these trades are going to be recommendations to go ahead and place any of those trades yourself. I will be making those trades at sort of random, again, just to show the functionality of the charts. So nothing about those trades will be, again, recommendations for you to go out and make those same trades. I'll let you read through the rest of this disclaimer while I get a little bit of coffee in me here. All right, fantastic. So a little bit about me. I've been working at Nadex for about 5 years now, and the last 4 years or so have been focused on both our platforms and our products that we put out there. So all the new products that we've been putting out, I've been heavily involved with all of those, as well as actually building this current platform that we have now that we actually started building around 4 years ago. So like doing these webinars because I like, I think I can give at least a little bit of insight onto why we did some things in the platform. And then in my personal life, I trade equity and equity options. I've been trading basically since I was 18. And that's basically what I trade. I do not trade any binary options on the live exchange, nor do I trade calls, spreads, and knockouts on the live environment because I cannot as a member of the Nadex exchange. However, if you are trading on demo, you might be trading against me because I do trade on demo quite a bit. All right, we will jump over into the next slide here, get away from having two pictures of me up. Just a real quick agenda. We're going to go over, basically we're just going to go through every feature of the chart. That's going to take the majority of the hour here. We're really just going to dive deep into every single aspect, everything that you can do on the chart. So that's, if you're looking for that, that's what this webinar is. Near the end, we will go over a couple different indicators. We're going to go over exponential moving average, relative strength index, just give a super quick crash course into some indicators. But primarily this will be focused on the feature package of the charting package that's inside the Nadex platform. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, definitely throw them in chat. We had a question actually come in before I even started talking here today, so I will address that now. But yeah, I'll get to any questions that you have as we go through. I have the chat up on the second screen here. So the question that I got in here, and I haven't really even read it yet. I have been trading 5-minute binaries, and I'm wondering why the price ladder doesn't show up on the chart for the next 5-minute binary. I can email customer service if you can't address it. Okay. So the question is, why does the price ladder not show up on the chart for the next 5-minute binary? Well, I'm not sure if I know exactly what you're asking, but let's go jump into the platform here because that's where you have to go at this point in the webinar anyway. I will log into my nice webinar account, my I Like Nadex account. There we go. That's going to be the demo login screen. This is going to be the demo landing screen whenever you land in the platform itself. So this, the question was on 5-minute binaries and why the next 5-minute binaries don't show up on the chart. Do you mean? I think they should show up on the chart. If you mean kind of when they're about to be created, that is because they sort of takes a little bit in the back end to sort of create those contracts and then push them out so you can see them. So I think there might be a little bit of a delay, maybe a second or two, when the 5-minute period starts. If they aren't showing up at all, that is something that we do need to address. So if you can throw some clarification on that question in the chat, I can definitely help you out with that. But we will just dive into the actual charting package here And yeah, if you can throw any clarification in the chat or shoot it over to customer service, we can definitely take a look at that if they're not showing up on the chart at all for you. So this is going to be the demo platform. You've already seen how I kind of opened up a chart there. Really, all you need to do to open up the chart, get the chart in the middle of the screen, is to choose your product. Choose whatever product or whatever market class you want to trade. We are going to basically focus on the binaries here today, although the call spreads and knockouts are also very popular and I think pretty cool. Pretty cool contracts, although I'm probably biased in that thinking. So just jumping into it, let's get into some binaries here. So we'll do a forex. So as you can see on the left hand side, you have all your different market classes. We have indices, forex events, etc. So let's look at a forex contract here today. We click into forex, we see all our pairs, and we also see all of our different durations for all of the individual strikes. Let's go down. I feel like I do euro dollar a lot. Let's do pound dollar. Pound dollar is also a fairly active, large traded market. As you can see, once I actually click into any of these different durations, I will get the price ladder that pops up underneath those different durations, right? With all of my different strike levels is sort of what we refer to as a price ladder, because you can see the ladder of all the different strikes going down as well as the pricing. Clicking on any of these strikes, either on the strike itself or on the buy or the sell side, is going to open up both the chart in the middle of the screen and the deal ticket on the right hand side of the screen. So I will click on, let's do one right around 50-50, always good to get one that's right around where the market's currently trading. And there we go, we have the chart in the middle of the screen, we have the deal ticket on the right hand side of the screen here. I'm going to quickly, okay, I will show you how to do what I just did a little bit later, but this is actually what you're going to be seeing as default when you actually jump into the platform the first time, right? You're going to see all of the strikes. Excuse me, got a little bit of allergies today, so have to bear with me on that one. But you should see all of the strikes overlaid on the chart itself, right, when you first jump into the platform. So before I do jump in, so you can actually make this screen bigger, and that's what I'm going to do for the duration of this webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and just hide these side panels. You can hide them really easily. You have these little double arrows here. So I can hide this double arrow and click this double arrow, hide the positions panel, and I'm actually going to hide the deal ticket as well. We will go back to the deal ticket, place a few trades, see how those trades are overlaid on the platform itself. But for right now, we're just going to hide it and get it out of here. So let's hide that. And now we have a much larger vision, much larger screen for our actual chart. Most of the different charting functionality you're going to be able to get in two different places. You're either going to be able to select any of the functionality from the charts at the top left of the screen, or so this top left bar up here, you can see as I hover over, there's a lot of different little icons, or you can go ahead and right click on the chart itself. Most of what I'll be showing today will be right clicking on the chart. I think that's a lot easier. You don't have to move your mouse back and forth across the screen. You can just right click anywhere you want. But there are a couple different pieces of functionality that you can't get through to that right click menu. So we'll go over those first. And the first of those is going to be changing the different candlestick time. So right now, this first little option here that I have at the top left of the screen, it says 15 minutes. What's that referring to? Well, that's the interval, that's the candlestick interval that's being displayed. So right now, each of the candlesticks on the chart is displaying a 15 minutes worth of data to me. And I can go in and I can change that, right? This should be pretty normal if you use any charting software, but I can go in and I can change all of these candlesticks to anything. So if I want much smaller candlesticks, I want to get much more granular in where the market's moving, I can go down to a minute or even a second or even a tick. So now each of those candlesticks is going to be 1 minute. So you see 11:23, 11:24, 11:25, and I can go all the way up to daily candles. And now you can see, in the past month or so, couple months, we've really had quite a bit of sell-off in the cable trade, the pound dollar trade. I'm going to go back to 15 minutes, 15 or probably 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah, 10 looks pretty good for our purposes in this webinar. You get a nice view of a good amount of strikes. There is one actually other thing that I do want to touch on before I move on from the interval selector here. Excuse me. And that is the hotkeys for selecting these. So you may notice on this drop-down menu, you have both the selection for the different candlesticks, but to the right of these selectors, you have little grayed out numbers, basically. Numbers and letters. So these say, this says 3, so it says 1H, right? What those numbers are they are just hotkeys that you can type in when you are selected on the chart, and that's going to change to whatever selection you want. So right now we're selected at 10 minutes. If I want to go back to 15 that I was at earlier, I just start typing 1, 5. It's a little bit hard to see because I'm in dark mode and it's hard to see, but you can see I typed in 15 there, and it's telling me that'll do 15 minutes. If I hit enter, you'll see the candlesticks have changed to 15-minute candles as opposed to 10. And so you can do this with any of the different intervals, right? So if I want to do an hour, I do 1H, enter. Now you can see I have an hour candlestick. I can do it with day. I believe day is 1D. Yep, and you can see it's on the daily. And you don't have to memorize these. I mean, I have them memorized at this point because I've been doing this for a while. But if you're ever forgetting what any of these are, you can go into this section, and again, it will have this little grayed out options to the right-hand side of the selector. So if I'm ever trying to go to my tick chart, I don't remember what the hotkey is for the tick chart, I can just go check, say, okay, tick is 1T, let me do this, 1T. And there we go. Now I can see all of the individual ticks that are coming across the chart. And you can certainly use this if you'd like. Sometimes it's very helpful to actually see every single tick that's coming in through the underlying market. I do generally prefer having my candlestick chart, though, a little bit further out. So let's go back to, I don't know, 10 minutes looks pretty good. Yeah, we'll do a nice 10-minute. Actually, you know what? We'll do 15. We got some more strikes in here. You can see more where the market's been. So that's going to be the interval selector. The other functionality that you can't access from the right-hand clicking mechanism, window, whatever you want to call it, is going to be in the next thing over in the top left window, and that's going to be the range. So you can choose to see a certain range of data displayed on your chart, right? So if I just want 1 day's worth of data displayed on this chart, I click a day. If I go back to this candlestick right here, you can see this candlestick is May 25th at 12:15. Right now, the current candlestick we're on is May 26th at 12:15. So you can see I am getting 24 hours of data on my screen when I click this 1 day. We can do 1 week, right? If I go back to this first one now, it should be about a week ago, which would be, Thursday, May 19th. And now we're going up to Thursday, May 26th. One other thing to remember, though, when you are selecting these, it is going to change the interval that you have selected as well. You might notice that I had 15 minutes selected earlier. Now I have 1 hour selected because it has to sort of fit all that information in. So it has to fit that 1 week's worth of information onto the screen in front of you. We are going to just go back to this 15-minute candles. And now for everything else throughout the webinar, I am going to be using this, the right-click menu. These are the only 2 things that you can only use from that top left corner menu there. So if I right-click on the platform itself, we have the first thing that comes up is our indicators. So we do have quite a few indicators on the platform. As I said in the beginning, I will, at the end of the webinar, be going over just a little bit onto what a couple of these indicators are. That's going to be the RSI and the EMA. And we will go over those. But for right now, I just want to go over actually kind of the functionality of putting these on. So first of all, if you hover over these and you maybe are a little bit newer to trading or a little bit newer to technical analysis in general, you don't know what some of these indicators are, don't worry. We have a little bit of information blurb next to every single one of these indicators. So let's say for Bollinger Bands, right? You aren't sure what Bollinger Bands are. You hover over, you see Bollinger Bands, they're envelopes based on the moving average and standard deviation, and you can get a little bit of a blurb here that's going to give you a little bit of a base foundation for understanding what these indicators are telling you on the chart. So now that I know a little bit about Bollinger Bands, because I've read this nice little blurb here, we can go ahead and we can overlay it on the chart. I can select my Bollinger Bands, and there we go. There we have our bands on there. We have our mid average line and our different standard deviations coming off of those averages. That's how you're going to be able to overlay, the indicators that are overlaid directly on the chart. The ones that are overlaid underneath are going to be the same way, right? So if we have something like the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence, we can click that, and that's going to be overlaid underneath the chart, but it's going to be from the same section where you just choose your indicators. So all of the indicators are going to have default fields already selected, but you can actually you can actually change the indicators to fit what you're doing a little bit better. So for example, these Bollinger Bands, I believe they are 20 period moving average of 2 standard deviations on the different edges. And we can see it out here. Yep, we have 20. If we actually click on this, we're going to be able to edit some of the different aspects of this indicator, right? So let's say instead of taking a 20 average period as that center line, we want to look at a 30 period, and instead of 2 standard deviation off the center line, we want to look at 4 standard deviation, right? Which is going to make our yellow lines go a lot wider out. So let's do 4. And now we can see, yep, so now we have our 30 period and our 4 standard deviation, and our bands are a lot wider around where we are. You can also change things like the color, right? So if I want the upper band to be red and the lower band to be blue, you can change that as well. And any other combination. We have a green middle there. And if all of these even, you can change the dotted lines, thicker lines. You got a lot of different options is what I'm saying. And if you really are saying, okay, I don't like this blue, green, and red thing that I put on the screen, it doesn't look very good, I can just reset it to defaults. And there we go. We have our defaults back, so you can always get back to that little area there. And I can hit apply. Nope, did not mean to do whatever I just did. All right, accidentally clicked off there. I have some extra buttons on my mouse, and I accidentally bumped one. So we'll go back to our pound dollar. I believe we were on the pound dollar daily 11 a.m. strike. So yeah, let's jump back in here. I'm gonna take these back down. There we go. We have our setup back. Sorry about that little blip there. The one other thing as well, if you want to take off the indicators, you can go ahead. There's a couple ways you can do it, but probably the easiest way. So we see our MACD here. Instead of clicking on the little box itself, you can just click on that little X next to the box. That's going to take the indicator off your screen. That is really everything that we have for actual indicators here. Again, I will go back a little bit later and explain a little bit about some of those indicators, but functionally, that's going to be how you overlay the indicators onto your chart itself. One other thing to notice as well, when you do put the indicators on your chart, you'll see that you have the relevant information overlaid in the HLOC box. So this box that's following my cursor, see the one that's very hard to read because I'm moving it around, but the one that says the last traded, highest low, open, close. At the bottom of that, you can also see it says Bollinger plus, the moving average, Bollinger minus, and it's giving you values for each of these. So it's a little bit easier as well to actually get the numeric values of the indicators that you're overlaying. Moving on down here to our next little panel, we have our drawing section. So drawings, we do have the little information blurbs if you aren't aware. So an arrow you can see is highlights specific points of interest on the chart. But joking aside, it is fairly useful for some of these. For example, Fibonacci retracement. If you don't know what that is, you can hover over. It'll tell you what it is, and then you can select it and draw it on the chart itself. That's really not how you would usually draw one, but I'm just throwing it on the chart to show you how to do that. So very similar to the indicators, you just want to select and then you can draw it onto the chart itself. If you do draw a lot of things on the charts, what I would recommend using is the drawing toolbar. So you have this option here, it says show drawing toolbar. And you'll notice when I click that, that is going to enable this bottom left-hand panel. That's going to be able to allow you to draw the charts a lot better than you currently can, right? So if I, want my GAN fans, I can click here, right? So then you have this little GAN fan indicator, and then I can just very easily put that onto my chart. There we go. Now it looks very, very messy. You can also drag your drawings around. Oops. One other thing that I just messed up is once you actually select something on the drawing panel, it's going to stay selected so you can keep drawing it. So, right. So now if I just keep clicking around, I'll keep drawing triangles all over my chart. You have to deselect that to get that to stop. Once you actually have these all drawn on your chart, you can move them around as well. So let me try to grab it. I know you can move these. Okay, well, you can move these. However, I cannot figure out why I can't move them right now. You generally drag these around, and I am somehow not able to figure that out currently. You can also edit them. So if you left click right here onto the drawing that you have up, you can edit it, right? So you can make it different, make it dotted, make the lines thicker. You can change the colors of it, right? So all of the stuff that you can do with all the indicators, everything else, so you can edit them all there as well. You can also duplicate it, right? So I can get another one. And there we go. Now I can drag it around. I'm not sure why I couldn't drag it earlier, but you can drag it around, duplicate it, right? Now we have a bunch of different triangles, and you can also delete them individually by right-clicking and deleting them. If you want to get all of the drawings off your screen, like someone that just drew all over their screen with no regard, like I just did, you can go to the drawings section and say delete all the drawings. So at the bottom of the drawing section, you're gonna have the option to delete all the drawings. You can click that, and there we go. Now I'm not covered up with 1,000 different drawings on my screen that really don't do anything. So that's going to be how you delete your drawings. Also use the drawing toolbar. There is one other little bit of functionality here that I do want to explain. I almost never turn this off, but I do want to explain it because it is an option here. It's this option that says snap to HLOC prices. What that means is basically when you are drawing, it will try to snap, and will try to sort of go towards either the high, low, open, and close points on a candlestick, right? And I can show you, if I zoom in really far on a candle, and by the way, when I zoom in and zoom out, it's just with the scroll wheel on my mouse, just in case that's not clear. But let's do a drawing here. I can just do an arrow, and you can see as I sort of hover over these different points. So on this red candle here, as I kind of hover over, it's snapping to the low wick on the candle. You can also see the close wick, or sorry, the close kind of bar and the open point on the bar. It's snapping there. So if I do want to draw my arrow, I can really easily draw it to different points on the chart itself. If I turn this snapping off and then I try to draw an arrow, it's a little hard to see, but you can see as I kind of hover over, it's not snapping to this close point or the low point anymore. So again, generally, I almost always leave this on because I think it's better to snap it to things, but you can turn it off, and that is what that functionality does. Okay, let's show more of our chart here again. So that is really everything that we have to do with the drawings. So we can move on down here now to our candlestick. One other thing with drawings I did just notice, you can also just turn off this drawing toolbar, hit the X, it's gone, and you can bring it back with show drawing toolbar. So the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the different candlestick types. They're actually the different chart types that are offered, candlesticks being one of them. So we have our candlestick chart type that you have. That's going to be the default and really is probably the most widely used and widely looked at chart, probably among all traders. I have no data to back that up, but I would assume so. It seems like it probably is. It's generally the default. So we have our candlestick chart, right? That's the one we have selected right now. We also have Heikin-Ashi charts. You'll see when I select this, it's very similar to the candlestick chart. Very basically what Heikin-Ashi does, and I'm actually not even sure if I'm ever pronouncing that correctly, but very basically it gives you an average rather than the absolute high, low, open, close ranges. It sort of averages out those high, low, open, close, and what it really does is it kind of smooths out those upward and downward movements in the chart itself, right? So you can see we have generally a lot of green candles followed by a lot of red, followed by a lot of green, right? You have these upward and downward trends, while if you go back to the actual candlestick chart itself, it's a lot choppier, right? So that's very basically what the Heikin-Ashi does. If you want to learn more about that, I think we do have some learning materials on our site, but this is where you're gonna go and be able to select that. You also have your line chart. Line chart, fairly common chart as well. It's just a line. I'm not sure if I can say anything more on that point. You have your HLOC chart. HLOC chart is going to be very similar to your candlestick chart. It actually has all the same information that the candlestick chart is going to have. It just makes it a little bit easier. And I actually like this kind of charting because it makes it a little bit easier to see where the open is, because the open will always be going to the left. The close will always be going to the right. So this will always be an open, this will always be a close, always open, always close, right? Then you still have the high, low, So it's all just kind of personal preference. I do actually like the HLC candles as well. It can be a little bit easier to read in my opinion. And then you have the mountain, and the mountain's basically a line chart with a shaded underneath area. So pretty easy. We are going to go back to our candlestick chart just for the duration of this this webinar here. That is where you choose them all. So that's the types. We have that knocked out. The next thing we have on here is our price. So this section, I do get a lot of questions about with people not really knowing entirely what this does. So very basically, this area is where you can choose what the chart is showing in terms of what it's showing from the underlying market, right? The default is going to be the last traded, and the default is going to basically be the last traded put through our settlement calculation. That's where you're going to get this indicative value that if I bring up a chart here, we see the indicative value right now of the pound dollar is 125,726. We look on our chart, oh, okay, this matches up. Obviously it's moving up and down, but this number right here that I'm hovering over, this blue number 125,728, is going to match this indicative price, right? Because what the indicative price is based on is the last traded in the underlying market. Why am I all of a sudden talking about this? Well, because if we go back to price and we select the ask, well, we can see, okay, now this section here, it says 125,760. This says 125,746. What the hell's going on? Why did these not match anymore? Well, because what I've just done on the chart is gone from having the last traded price shown in the underlying market to showing the ask prices that are going on at the underlying market, right? So showing what people are basically offering in the underlying market. We can also go and look at the bid prices. And again, it's going to be different from the indicative because now what we're showing is we're showing the bids in the underlying market, right? We were looking at the offers last time, we're looking at the bids now, and we can also do the midpoint. The midpoint is going to be a lot closer to the actual last traded, but it's not going to be exact, right? Because what you're looking at here is the midpoint between the ask and the bid. It's not actual last trade data, which is what our underlying markets are actually based on, right? Our underlying markets are not based on quotes, really. They're based on actual trades that are being placed through. So what does all of this really mean? Well, generally, I don't recommend anyone moving this away from the last traded section unless you really know why you'd be doing that. Because a lot of times what happens, and I used to many years ago, I was on the phones here at Nadex, and I would help people out, but people would call in and say, look, my indicative pricing is not matching what's on my chart, what gives. 99% of the time, it was that this selector right here had been changed, and it was no longer on last traded. So if you do have it on last traded, it should match up with what the indicative price is showing you. Now, I know I just went through a bunch of things and said, don't change that, but here's a reason why you might want to change that. So there is another, we'll get away from our sort of right-click selector areas here. There's another little area on the chart that I want to show you, and that's this little, we call it a hamburger menu, I think is the industry term for it. It's the three little horizontal lines, right? If I click on this, I have a couple of options here. The option we're going to look at right now is the switch to quick chart. So if I click on this, we're actually going to get a different type of chart. And this does tie in with the price, I promise, with what I was just showing you. So if I click on this, you'll see here, I now only have a few candlesticks and I have no strikes every way. This looks much different. What's going on? What am I seeing here? Well, what the quick chart is showing you, what the last chart is showing you, right? What the default chart is always showing you is the chart of the underlying market, right? So what we were looking at on the last chart was the charting of the price of the pound dollar. What the quick chart is showing you is the pricing of the specific contract that you are trading, that you have selected, right? So what this is showing is the price history, the charted price history of the pound dollar greater than 12580 expiring at 11 a.m. contract on Nadex. So it is, obviously different than the underlying market, right? It does sometimes move with the underlying market, but sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes these derivative products, they are derived from that underlying market. That doesn't mean they're always moving linearly with that underlying market. So you can go to the quick charts and go, okay, well, what was this actual option that I'm trading right now worth back, what is this, 12.10 today? Well, it was worth, 52 bucks. Now it's worth, 48 bucks on the buy side. Why this ties into the price section I was just talking about, because if I go to price now, you'll see it's selected on mid. And what it's showing me right now is the midpoint between these two prices. But if I go and look at, for example, ask, well, now I see it's 48 here. We see the ask on this exact contract is 48, and now it's 48.75. We can see the chart move up and down with us as we've selected the different ask or bid on this specific quick chart, right? So I think this is extremely useful. You can go back and say, okay, this specific contract, this Nadex binary option that I'm trading, I can go back and look at what the sell price was, an hour ago. I can't on this because there was no sell price an hour ago because this contract recently opened up, but I can go back and look at what it was when it opened, which was about, 30 minutes ago, right when this webinar started, and I can say, look, the ask price on this was 52.50 about 30 minutes ago. We can also go and if we go to price, we can also see what the bid price is. And again, we're going to see we have 43.75, right? 43.50. That's moving with this sell price that we have here on the left-hand side. So now that we've have the bid selected, it's going to match up with the bid that's being shown on the deal ticket. And again, the midpoint is going to be sort of the default here, where it's going to show you the midpoint pricing between these two buy and sell. So, right, it's 47. 47 is the midpoint between 45.50 and 48.50. And obviously it's fluctuating as I talk, so those numbers are changing. So that is where you're going to be able to go to the quick charts. Again, the way you access these quick charts is going to be the top right corner, this hamburger menu as we call it, and it's going to have this option here. Now it's a switch to default chart. Now I'm back on the default. If I go back, switch to quick chart, now I'm back on the quick charts, right? So that is one of the areas that I end up switching the price, because maybe I want to see what the sell side was priced at, 50 minutes ago or an hour ago or 2 days ago if I'm trading weekly, right? I want to see what the best available sell price was in the market. And that's actually another good point to remember. What you're actually shown on this chart is the best available sell price being offered, right? You're not going to see all of the underneath prices that are underneath the best, but you will have a charting history of those best available prices that were offered on the market throughout the history of the contract. So I think I've belabored that point enough, but I do like to always show that because the functionality is a little bit hidden, but I think it's very useful. So we're going to go back to our default chart here. There is one other thing I will show you up here, but I'm going to save that for a little bit further on, and that's going to be the tear-off charts. Just remember, that's the other little functionality that you can access from this hamburger menu. Also, we're going to make sure that we change our price back to last traded. That's another important bit. We have talked earlier about how the price on the chart. Sorry, I can't talk sometimes. The price on the chart won't match the indicative if it's not set to last traded. So make sure if you do change that when you're looking at your quick charts, to go back over, change it back to last traded when you get back to this underlying market. So we're going to zoom back out here a little bit, and wow, we have our standard deviations here going real wide on our Bollinger Bands. So we have some very large ranges here now. Okay, so that was the quick chart, and that we also went over that default, the pricing tab there, and I think we did it and spent quite a bit of time on it, so we'll move on down here. Now, the next thing we have is our scale. What this references is these numbers on the right-hand side of the screen here. So you can see here, I have 1262, 1260, 1258, 1256, right? Going down across the screen. That is the linear scale, and that is going to be the default scale that you have on the platform when you first jump into it. The one that I actually use a lot more often, I do think the linear scale is useful, right? Because if this is all up here at 12620, and actually these don't always directly match up with the strikes we have. It just so happens, actually they rarely match up with the strikes we have. Just so happens right now that these linear intervals also match up with our strike interval. But if I do, they are somewhat useful because you can actually look at them and say, okay, it goes across, this is 12620. I can get a really good representation easily of what these prices are on the chart. However, the one that I end up using more is this percentage scale. So you can see there when I selected that, it changed from actual rational numbers to percentage numbers. And what these percentage numbers are actually doing, what they're sort of based off of, if I actually go back and I look for 0%, we have 0% right here. If I take the 0% and I go all the way across my chart, we'll see that this 0% matches up, right? It matches up with the very first candle that's being shown. If I start zooming out, we have our 0%. It changed. It's now up here. If I go back, it's matching up with the very first candle being shown. So what this is actually giving you a good visual representation of is how much on a percentage basis that the market has moved while in sort of the time frame that you're seeing on the chart itself. So I can really easily, if I kind of zoom back in here and get this all on the chart, so I can say, okay, from this first candle that's on this chart to right here, we've only gone up less than, probably 0.1%, right? But I can also say, okay, when we were here from this candle to this candle, I can look across and say, oh, that's about 0.44% increase. So I can get very, very easily get an idea of the percent changes in these markets just by having this panel on the right-hand side of my screen be set to percentages and have the kind of 0%. It's always going to be tied back to where this first candle on your screen is. So again, that's cool. Where you find this is going to be in scale. Linear is going to be those absolute numbers on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, and percentage is going to be these percent values on the right-hand side of the chart. Moving on down, we have our show panel here. So this one is actually something that this is some functionality I think is extremely useful. Some of the functionality that I use most on these charts. Before we get super into the thick of it though, I am going to actually place a couple trades on this chart because it's going to help us look at some of this functionality. So let's go ahead, and you'll notice on the chart as well, I can select any of these strikes I want from the chart. So I can click here and it will change to the strike on my deal ticket, and it will also select the correct side on my deal ticket at all times, right? So let's, I will get into a buy side contract here. So I'm just going to really quickly place an order. If you want to know more about trading binaries, or you want to know more about the platform itself, check out some of our past webinars that I've done, or some of the webinars I'll be doing in the future. I think maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be doing a binary webinar again. Shameless plug here. So we have, I just placed this contract, and you'll see when I place this trade, it's actually overlaid on the chart itself. So I can see my trade here. I see my profit and loss. So let's get this back up here. So this is my contract that I have, right? I can see my profit and loss, 275, 275, right? So we can see that on the contract itself, overlaid on the chart itself. We can also see a +1. +1 means that's a buy side contract. If I was on a sell side contract, that would say -1. Above 12560. So again, that's just going to be the strike price that we're trading on, 12560, right? So it's going to give you a lot of information on the chart itself about the position that you have. This also works for working orders. So let's look at, we'll do this here, and we'll place a working order on this. So very quickly, a working order is just an order out in the market that you want to be filled at some later time. So let's say right now this contract's trading at about 50 bucks. I think that's too expensive for this contract. I want to get this contract when it's at 30 bucks. In fact, I can put in an order to do that, and if this market ever falls down, it'll give me into the contract at that $30 price point. So if I place the order, you'll see it's not in my position panel, it's in my orders tab, right? Because it's a working order, but you can also see it is on the chart as well. So it's now on the chart, and you'll see that it is a grayed out panel. So your open positions are always going to be either red or green, depending on if they're trading at a profit or a loss. So if this starts trading at a profit while we're on this webinar, you'll see that it will turn green, while your working orders will always be these gray boxes. So you can see here, it's kind of hard to see on my screen, but it's the one that says +1 above 12580. This that I'm hovering over with my cursor. So the gray box is always going to be your working orders. It's always going to be sort of put on the left-hand side of the screen. Your red or green boxes are going to be your open positions, and the red and the green is going to denote whether you are currently in a profit or loss on that position. I did have a question come in. How do we find the past webinars? Great question. The past webinars are the past webinars are all going to be on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and just search Nadex, that's going to be the official Nadex YouTube channel. And all of the webinars that I do, all the webinars that I do every Thursday are on there. I do sort of a rotating number of them, as well as we have a lot of other webinars from other Nadex employees that do these, from third parties that we work with, and a lot of shorter videos as well. So shameless plug, go check out our YouTube channel. Just if you search Nadex on YouTube, it is just called Nadex on YouTube. You should be able to find it there. And that is also where the recording of this webinar will be put up a little bit later on today after we're done with this. Excuse me, sorry. My allergy is a little bit bad today, so I'm trying to make sure my nose is working. All right, so we've put the orders, we've placed some orders. We see them on our chart. We see them overlaid on our charts themselves. One other bit that I do just want to call attention to, I'm sure you guys have seen it while I'm going through this, but when I've selected the buy and the sell, it sort of shades above for the buy side and shades in blue and shades below in red for the sell side. Just sort of a visual representation telling you that, okay, if you at expiration, if I buy this contract, I need the market to be above this line that's going across. At expiration, if I sell this contract, I need the market to be below this line that's going across. So again, easy visual representation there. I'm going to drop away these different panels we have again. And so let's now go back to our show panel that we have here. So we have show. So the first one, I'll kind of go through this. So just top to bottom. The first one we have here is called the HLOC data. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the HLOC data is going to be this box that's following my cursor around, right? It's the box that says price last traded, highest, lowest, open, close, and it basically just gives you numeric values for both the high, low, open, close of the candlestick and for the indicator, the different values associated with that candlestick for the indicators that you have overlaid. If I go in and I turn that off, well, now there's no box again. So now there's no box. Now there's a box showing me all this data. I always keep mine turned on. It is defaulted to on, mostly because I don't care how busy my charts are. I just want the most data possible, but I know some people want a little bit less data for kind of cleaner looking charts. Both are fine, personal preference, and so we kind of allow you to turn that on or off. Drawings, let's put a drawing on really quickly here. We'll put a channel on. So if we don't want to see our drawings anymore, we can toggle our drawings on and off. You'll see that also toggles the toolbar. And similarly with indicators, you can toggle the indicators on and off. If you ever can't see your indicators and are wondering why, or your drawings and are wondering why, most likely it's been toggled off in the show panel, right, in the show section. All right, and here is where we get into the fun part that I really like. So the open positions and the working orders. So you may have been asking, why did we just stop the webinar to put some open positions and working orders on? Well, it's because we wanted to show that you can take them off as well. So these will be overlaid by default, but if you don't like them overlaid, you can toggle them on and off. So this is the open position. This is the working order. This one is probably the most useful of any functionality that we have. This is the strike toggle. So if I do this, I am constantly toggling this on and off because I can kind of toggle the strikes, and now it's a lot cleaner. I can just focus on the one strike that I'm trading on that I want to look at. You can still click these little bars, right, to get the different strikes to come back up, but they're not all showing at once. And if I go to show again, I can turn them all back on. Now, I very rarely actually right click and actually go to show to do that, because what you can do, and what I did a little bit earlier in the webinar for any of those of you with the key and I, is just hit the S key, and now my strikes are gone. This is probably the hotkey that I use more than any other one, because I'll be sitting here trading. I want to get the strikes back up. Oh, I can quickly see, oh, this is 1260. I can select that, and I can take the other strikes off, right? So I can very quickly, while I'm going around and trading on the platform here, toggle the strikes on and off, and so I can see all the strikes and then get them all away. So that's going to be with the S key. And again, Just like with the hotkeys we talked about earlier in the webinar with the different intervals, if you are not sure what these are, you can look at the actual options on the in the little selector window, and you can see, okay, this little grayed out S that's next to it, that is the hotkey. You also notice that this is a P, these have an O, this is a T, and yes, those are hotkeys as well. So if I want to toggle my working orders, I believe, no, that's my open positions, is P. So if I hit P, I can toggle my working position, my open positions on and off. If I hit the O key, that's going to toggle my orders. So again, you can see over here, if you can't see what's happening, this is my working orders. I hit the O key and I'm toggling those. This is the working open position. If I hit the P key, I'm toggling that. I can hit the S key and I can toggle all the strikes on my screen. And the last one that you have there is the T key, and that's going to be this timeline here at the bottom. So see this little timeline that I have running across the bottom of my screen? I can toggle that on and off with the T key. So you can always get to all of these if you just go to the show section here. But you can also do them with hotkeys. It's a lot easier once you get used to it to do it with hotkeys a lot faster. But if you are ever wondering what those are, you ever forget what those keys are, they are right here next to the actual functionality on the platform. So just a little bit of functionality that I think is cool and I use it all the time. And actually I'm going to use it right now to toggle the strikes off so that we can get a little cleaner looking chart. Moving on down to the last couple things with the show. So this price changes here. If we toggle that on and off, you'll notice on the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, right here that I'm circling, that is going to be the price changes. What this little area here shows, it's going to show both the numerical and the percentage change from the first candlestick to the current candlestick, right? So that's what these first two kind of data points are. I'm going to turn off this HLSC so you can see this. So this first data point here, 0.00343, that's telling you the absolute change from this first candlestick to this last candlestick on your screen, and it's also telling you the percentage change, 0.27, 0.28. So we can say very easily it's moved up about 0.3% from this candlestick to this candlestick, right? Also, these data points, they will tell you the high and the low of this underlying market for today, and then the high and the low of the underlying market for the selected area that you have on your screen right now. So you can see this is 11 yesterday to the current time today, and we can see, okay, that's showing me this the high and low for this area. We can turn that off here in price changes, and that will go away. Again, I like to leave it on because even if it looks a little bit messier, I like having the most possible data that I can have. And then we have the price line. The price line, if we kind of zoom in let's select this. If we, so see this very faint blue line that's coming across here from the current price, that's the price line. You can turn that off here. No more blue line. Now there's a blue line. Pretty easy stuff there. Should be fairly simple to understand. We have a few more things here. We are getting towards the end, so I want to make sure that I get the rest of the functionality, and I can take a little bit of time to go over RSI and exponential moving average here. So as we go down, we have our layouts. So layouts are fairly useful if you have a certain setup that you always like to use. So let's say that I always trade with Bollinger Bands and I always trade with MACD, right? So let's put on another indicator here. So let's say that I always use these two indicators. I always want them overlaid on every chart that I have. I can go save this as a layout. I can say Adam's Cool Layout, and I just saved it as a layout. So what can I do with that? Now, if I go to another market, let's go to, I don't know, let's go to commodities market. Let's see what gold is doing here today. It's not a lot of strikes pricing. I can actually turn off these indicators. There we go. Okay, so now let's say I just come in, and if I just come into my chart here, this might be how if I just open up my chart for the day, don't have anything on it yet, I can go to my layouts. I can say apply, and what did I call this? Adam's Cool Layout, I believe, is what I called it. I can apply this. and there we go. I have my Bollinger Bands, I have my MACD. So if there's certain like indicator suites, indicator packages, if you really like using a bunch of momentum indicators sometimes, or you really like using, just whatever you want to use, you can save that as a layout. And so you can very, very quickly and easily overlay these layouts with multiple indicators just very easily on the chart itself. So I am going to go back to our pound dollar. I don't know why I have that all highlighted. Let's go back to our pound dollar trade that we were looking at a little bit earlier. I think this is where we were. Yep. I am going to remove this MACD here because it takes up a lot of our screen. Okay, so that is the layout. So then if I want to go ahead and delete a layout, I say, I don't want Adam's cool layout anymore. That's a lame layout now. I can go ahead and delete that, and I got rid of that lame layout. There we go, pretty easy there. Moving now, we have our customize appearance. This is going to allow you to customize any of the charting options that you want. So if I don't want green candlesticks, let's say I want, orangey candlesticks for going up. And now I can hardly tell what's going on. So maybe I don't want that anymore. I want blue candlesticks for going down. And now we have some nice UVA colors on the screen, or Syracuse, or wherever you're from, whichever college team you like that has those colors. But you can go ahead and change that. You can make these lines thicker, right? You can show the grid. So see this grid in the background. You can toggle that on and off, or you can change the color to, I don't know, purple. There we go. We got a purple grid now. You can do a lot of different things. You can also show a watermark in the background. So if I go ahead and apply this, now I have a very much harder to look at chart than I had before, but you can always just go customize your chart so that it has whatever colors you want. You can put the pound dollar in the background. You can make the grid lines as ugly as you want. Just do it to your heart's content. And then if you have decided that you've made a monstrosity like I just made in front of you here today, you can reset that to default to get rid of the monstrosity. And there we go. We are back to our red and green candlesticks. You can do this with every single one of the different options. So if I want my, want my mountains to be filled with green, nice luscious green mountains here, there we go. I have those. So that is going to be how you do all of your different changes to actually the colors and everything like that to customize the appearance of your chart themselves. The last thing we have on this right-click menu is our export chart. And what that should do, so this isn't working because my Chrome is messed up, but it actually did work. Let me go in and, downloads. So what it does basically is it downloads a JPEG file of what you have on your screen here. Usually that will pop up in the bottom left, just like Chrome or Internet Explorer, any of these browsers do. My Chrome is messed up and it doesn't do that, but you can see here, if I click on this, this is the what I just did. So I just exported this, and generally it will show up in the bottom just like anything else that downloads from the internet on any of your browsers. You can click on it and you have a nice little screenshot of the chart itself. So if you ever need to send something in to customer service, or you have a certain setup that you want to send to a trading group you're in, you can do it this way. Fairly easy to do. That's going to be everything on the right-click menu, but there are a few more things that we do need to talk about. One of them being our tear-off charts. So I know we went over that earlier, and I said we would come back to it, so we'll go back to it now. So our little hamburger menu that we clicked on earlier to get to our quick charts, we also have the option to tear off the chart. So if I click this, it's going to open a new window. And in this new window, I have basically the same chart I was looking at. Well, why is this useful, right? Or why is it useful to have two different charts? Well, what I can do actually, and I'll pull this off here really quickly. I can actually set up a bunch of different charts at the same time. So let's say I always like looking at pound dollar, and I like looking at the Aussie yen. Oops, I tore the ticket off. You can also tear the ticket off. There's a few ways to do this. But let's just do tear off charts real quick. I know you can't see what I'm doing on my second screen. Bear with me. I will show you what I'm doing. It's a lot easier to put them up on your second screen, because what will happen, and I know this is something that happens from time to time. So see how I have this Eurodollar chart up in front of me. If I click on the screen behind it, it's going to vanish, because basically what's happening is it's bringing the other screen in front of it. I know that this happens. It's not something that we can fix because it's just how browsers work. But if you're ever missing your tariff charts, they're probably hiding behind your other screens. But let me just tear off a fourth chart here. Okay, now I have my 4 charts. And usually I will do this on my second screen. My second screen is also a little bit bigger, so bear with me. But very basically, I just tore off 4 different charts, and now I can sort of put them however I want. And again, this is a lot more useful if you are trading with multiple screens, because I generally am doing this on a second screen. But very basically, I can resize them, and now I can look at all 4 of these at the same time, right? So I have my Aussie yen, I have my dollar CAD, I have my my pound dollar, my cable trade, and I have my euro dollar trade as well. Oops, come on, there we go. Sometimes it's a little hard to move them around, and they can be a little bit small, right? So this is why I use it on my second screen, but you can do everything you want from these separate windows, right? So I can pull up a new ticket, I can trade on that ticket, right? If I select the side, I can place trades, I can look just at the price ladder too. So I know I'm moving very fast when I'm doing this, but I'll show you again. So this, let's look at the top right screen now. This is just a tear off chart that I had. If I click on anything on here, I will bring up a ticket. And now you can see here, I can go back to the price ladder as well. This will show me all of my different euro dollar binary options contracts. And I can actually even just hide the ticket. And now I just have this price ladder here that I can drag around. So I know I went through that pretty quickly. I would recommend just giving it a try, because it's something that I think it's a little bit harder to see visually because it looks really messy on my screen when I'm doing it on the webinars. But especially if you have a second screen, go ahead, just try tearing the tickets off, try tearing off the charts, seeing what you want to do with them, right? But it's fairly easy to do, and I think pretty useful to actually customize your experience here. So we are almost to the end here. I know we're running right up against noon, but I do have a couple little bits more functionality. So one last bit of functionality I do want to draw your attention to is you may have noticed when I've been zooming in and out on these webinars, as we've been going through here, that the chart is sort of expanding and contracting, zooming around where the market is, right? So if I am zoomed in here, I'm basically just scrolling up and down on my mouse wheel, but it's sort of it's kind of taking it and it's zooming it out so I can see all of the market that I'm trading right now. Now let's scroll back in here. Let's say I'm taking this, and if you just left click on the chart, you can kind of grab it and pull it around. So let's say I'm doing that, I'm grabbing this, I want to go see this section, right? So I'm just left clicking, I'm dragging it and pulling it around. Now, if I start scrolling in and out, you can see it's no longer keeping the entire chart in the screen for me, right? Where previously it was sort of zooming out, zooming into where I was going. If I zoom in, zoom out now, it's sort of just straight zooming in, zooming out. It is not trying to keep, you can see some of the chart goes off the screen here, some of the charts going off the screen up here. I can't see it all. So why is this happening, and how do I get my auto zoom back, right? Well, basically, if you kind of start pulling around on the screen, it will break the auto zoom, or it kind of turns it off. The way you're going to want to get it back, and also this is another kind of thing, if I don't know where my chart is, let's say I get really far away from my chart, and I'm like, okay, well, how the hell do I get back to my chart now? If I click this button here, so it looks like a play button with a line next to it, and if I hover over it, it says latest price. It will take me to the latest price of the chart, but it will also turn the auto scroll back on, the auto zooming the chart. So again, just to show you what I'm talking about, we have this, right? So this is kind of scrolling, zooming around. If I drag this a little bit, no longer zooming in and out. If I hit this again, now I'm scrolling and it's zooming my screen in and out. So sort of hidden functionality, but I think it's pretty useful. So it's just this last traded button. Hit it, it will sort of return on that auto scroll functionality. Very good question coming in the chat, actually, and this is something that I meant to address earlier. So thank you so much for putting this in, because I would have forgotten it. The question is, can we download the platform to Mac systems? Secondly, does the chart markings save? I'll start with the second one first. Do the chart markings save? I believe you mean like if I, exit out, if I log out and log back in, will my indicators still be there? Yes, they will. And if you always have indicators that you like putting on, again, we went over the layouts a little bit ago. You can always save those layouts, and you can, put the layouts on in any way you want, right? So if you have two indicators that you always like, and you always use those together, and you always use these two indicators together, you can save these different layouts and apply them. But yeah, so if you just log out, if I just were to log out right now and then log back in, my Bollinger Bands would still be on the chart. And then the first question, can we download the platform to Mac systems? So you cannot download this platform in a traditional sense, right? You can't actually download it and like use it offline. What you can do though, both on Macs, on PC, anything, is so if you see right here, and actually this will probably look different on my screen because I have already done this, but it should be this button here. It'll actually be a slightly different. Let me see if I can actually. Yeah, I've already done this. So basically, it'll be a slightly different icon when you do this because I've already done this, right? But if you click this icon up here, basically it will allow you to download it to your home screen and set it up basically as a icon on your home screen. From there, if you actually open it, it'll open as sort of its own app. So you can see here, I'm not sure if you can really see, but this is the same, same account I was just in. It doesn't have a bar at the top, right? It looks a little bit cleaner, and it actually is basically the same web app, but it's kind of just running straight from your home screen rather than going onto a browser. And it's a lot easier to actually get there. So thank you for reminding me of that, because you can do that. And again, the way you're going to want to do that is open it up in a browser, and then it's going to be this this little symbol. It won't be the exact symbol, but this will be the location of the symbol. And so click this and it'll basically download it onto your desktop. It won't actually download. It's basically just an icon. But yeah, thank you for that, because that's a very good question. And the other question, so we just had another question coming in. Is there an app for Windows? I downloaded Nadex Pro, but it doesn't accept my login. Oh, wow. So Nadex Pro is I think that was even before my time, that we used to have a standalone downloadable app. I think we have not supported that since 2015. I am not sure how long it's been since we haven't supported that. But yeah, Nadex Pro, unfortunately, we do not have support for that anymore. So we do not have an application that actually downloads onto your computer. However, you can sort of set this up like one, because you need internet to trade anyway. So it works in much the same way that a downloadable app would have, even if it just is an icon that's on your thing and it's opening it in sort of a different screen. But yeah, very good questions. Thanks for bringing that up, because I would have forgotten to tell all of you that. I know we are at 12:05 now. Generally, we schedule this for just an hour, but I did promise to show you, give you a little bit of background about RSI and EMA. So I will do that now. So we're going to end up the webinar here with just a very quick crash course into a couple indicators and why you might use them and what they might mean for your trading. So I'm going to take our phone Bollinger Bands here. Bollinger Bands are gone. So first, let's do EMA. EMA is a fairly easy indicator to understand, and that's why I choose these two indicators to kind of go over in this webinar, because they are a little bit, they're not super basic, but I think they're a good kind of primer if you haven't used a lot of technical analysis in the past to understand what's going on with some of them. Because something like exponential moving average, EMA, which is down here, that we're going to go over, moving averages are actually the basis for a lot of different technical indicators. So it's good to know this one. So an exponential moving average, basically, and we can hover over this a second, see if what I'm telling you is right. But very basically, it is a moving average that is weighted more heavily to more recent data points. That's all it really is. But very basic. But what that means is you're gonna the moving averages you're seeing, it's going to allow you to get a better idea of what's going on in the more recent time frames in the market, rather than necessarily what's going on at the kind of backside of the data points that you have for those moving averages. And let's see. Yep, it looks like I'm right. When I hover over the information panel, it is a moving average that's weighted more towards the latest data. So when I click on this, we'll see it's overlaid on my chart here, and there are a few different moving averages that are overlaid. So we can tell, and I'll actually bring this up here, the purple line, that's going to be our 20-period moving average. So it's looking back over 20 periods, or 20 basically 15-minute candlestick periods, right? Because we have 50-minute candlesticks selected. So it's looking back over 20 periods of that. The blue or teal, light bluish line, that's going to be our 50 period, right? 50 looking back period, and our yellow, yellowish, goldenish line here, that's going to be our 100 period moving average that we're looking at, right? So, and if I wanted to do more, right, I could look at 200, and now we see, you know, this gray line that's kind of running straight through is our 200 period. I am going to take that off though very quickly, so we can deselect that, and now we have all of these lines, right? So, okay, great. We have a bunch of different lines on the chart. What do they mean, right? What are we actually going to do with these lines? Well, one thing that you might look for with these moving averages is looking for when these moving averages cross over each other, right? When generally, when the moving averages, when the lesser period moving averages cross from above the greater periods, cross from below the greater periods to above, right? So, and we can see this. Let's zoom in right here because we can see this happening right here. So back here on our chart, let me take off the HLSC real quick so we can see a little bit easier. So right here on our chart, we have our three moving averages, and they're sort of from right now they're, I guess, kind of ranked. And the lowest one is our 20 period, and then up to our 50 period, then up to our 100, right? So the purple's 20, the blue is 50, yellow is 100. We can see here though that as we are moving forward, the 20 period starts moving above both the 50 and the 100, and then a little bit further on, we see also the 50 period move above the 100 period moving average. These can generally be seen as when the shorter one is moving above, the shorter moving average is moving above the longer period moving averages as a bullish trend, right? You can take that and say, okay, that is an indicator that the markets may be going up after this. Very, very large disclaimer here when talking about all technical indicators. These are not always correct, right? They are just indicators that can help you maybe get into different trade positions, but you can always go back and find times when this doesn't happen, right? So I just want to put this out there as a disclaimer. Just because this is moving above the longer period averages does not 100% mean the market will go up. So yeah, you always got to do this disclaimer here. But you can also see here as we kind of get above, we have, and then when the market starts moving down again, we see the moving averages start moving down until this point when they kind of get together, and then again the 20 period moves back below the other ones. When a shorter period moving average moves back below the longer period moving averages, you can generally think of that as a bullish signal, as a sign that the market may be moving in a downward direction. Again, caveat, not always correct, but it can be an indicator, right? All these technical analysis, they're basically just indicators of what the market might be doing. So very basically, that's our very quick crash course here into these moving averages. You can even go back and you can kind of find times when it actually does work. So you can see the 20 period is kind of flat, but a little bit underneath, and then it sort of balloons back over when the when you have this this very large upward swing in the market, and then as kind of we go back down, it crosses back down over, right? So you can see it's very, very high here, and then it crosses back down below those two moving average numbers. So that is how you want to look at exponential moving average, what it means, and somewhere that you might want to look at it to try to get signals to if the market's going to, or get an idea, get an indication that the market may move up or may move down. The other one that I wanted to look at here today is our RSI. RSI stands for Relative Strength Index. Where are we here? RSI. So RSI stands for Relative Strength Index, and we can hover over here and get a little blurb on it if we want to. It is a momentum indicator, and very basically, I'll do it without looking at the screen. It's a momentum indicator that's going to fluctuate between a price of 0 and a price of 100, or not necessarily a price, sorry, a value of 0 and 100. And what you're looking for here, when we overlay it, I'll show you. What you're looking for here is sort of periods where a market may be overbought or a market may be oversold. And that's going to give you indicators as to whether the market may be moving in an upward or downward direction. So without further ado, we'll overlay our RSI on the chart here. And so a couple things you'll notice immediately, and our linear scale, so that messed up our scale here. So we have our 70 and our 30 here, right? So this is a scale between 0 and 100. And very basically, what you are looking for with the relative strength indicator is where this line in the middle goes above this 70 period or below this 30 period. Right now, we have none of this happening. So let's move back a little bit and see if we can find any of this. Okay, here we go. So right now, we have, at this point in the market, we have relative strength indicator above the 70 period, right? The relative strength indicator is above the 70 period. Generally, you can say this is a signal that the market is overbought, right? Overbought, a signal that can be an indicator that the market may then move in a downward direction. And you can actually see this here. We kind of get an overbought signal back here. It gets more overbought, gets more overbought, and then the market does actually end up dropping. So the other side, and let's see if we can, it doesn't really look like we have any oversold signals here. Again, we have another overbought, the market drops a little bit. So you can see here, there is a little bit of truth. And then, okay, now we have a little bit of oversold signal. So as you can see, the market's going down, We start to get an oversold signal here. And then the market does actually go back up a little bit, although it very much stays kind of flat to negative. So again, a place where you can actually look at this overbought, oversold signals and say, okay, it is a signal that the market may go up. And the market did actually go up a little bit. But the general trend of the market from this point, if you just said this point, okay, it looks like it's very oversold, the market is still going down as a general trend. So again, I just want to show that these indicators, they're not end all be all, they're not foolproof, but they can give you a little bit of indication on where the markets might move. One other thing, so the 70 and 30 points are sort of the default, and it is what most people use with the relative strength indicator, but you can actually change those. So some people like change these up to like 80 and this one down to 20. And so then you could say, okay, now a lot of these aren't giving you overbought or oversold signals, but I guess the kind of argument to do this is that if it does show you an overbought or oversold signal at that point, that means the market is very overbought or very oversold, and maybe an indicator that the market will be having a large downward or large upward correction. So that is a very, very quick crash course in two different indicators. That's going to be the relative strength index and the exponential moving average. I know that was very, very quick crash course, but I did want to spend more time on just the functionality of our chart today and less on the actual technical indicators. That does get me, though, into a segue to next week. I actually will be off next week from webinars. So generally, I do them every Thursday at this time, 12 Eastern. However, next week, my colleague, Todd Rich, very, very smart guy, very cool dude, will be doing a webinar, and he will actually be doing a webinar that focuses much more heavily on just learning indicators. So if you took out of this week, you go away, really get a good idea of our charts. Hopefully you got the functionality of the charts this week, and then next week, Todd Rich, Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern, will be doing a webinar on going over a lot more indicators. So kind of a good 1-2 punch here between me and him to get you really learned up on both the functionality and the indicators that are on the chart or on the trading platform. That is going to be everything that I have here for the webinar. We won't call it just yet. I will go back over here and we will we'll give a little bit more time for any questions to come in. Oops, what did I just do? Did I just screw everything up here? Okay, sorry about that. I have messed up my screens here. Let's try to not do that again. There we go. Okay. Okay, so just for the end of our webinar here, if you do have any more questions, throw them up in chat and we will get to them. Okay, I mean, if I use the tools to mark on the chart, does it save the next time I log in? Yes, so going back to the question that was asked earlier, If you do use the different tools on the chart, you use the different indicators on the chart, when you go back in, they will still be there. If you have drawings on the chart, the drawings will only be there if it's on the specific chart that you have. The drawings won't go over to other charts, but they should still remain if you log out and log back in, or if you refresh. The drawings should still be on the chart if you're still looking at, for example, pound dollar. But if you go over to like euro dollar, the indicators will remain, the drawings will not. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, if you have any other questions, throw them in chat. I'm going to do a real quick spiel here at the end. So here are all of our socials and everything. So if you do have any questions, throw them in chat now. If you have any questions after this webinar or you're watching this recording, shoot the questions over to customerservice@nadex.com. We have a lot of very, very knowledgeable people over there that should be able to help you out with any questions that you do have. If you are enjoying Nadex, you're enjoying listening to me ramble on for hours about charting and technical indicators, go over to Trustpilot, leave us a review. It does help us out. Our social media teams do make me plug that, but it is genuinely does help us out. So go over there, leave us a review. And then at the bottom here, we have all of our socials. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all the goodies. We are on all of them. It is good to follow us on your social of choice because we do go ahead and we push out, any sort of major market movements or major changes that we have to do. We do push those out both through things like email and platform notifications, but also we put them in social. So if you want to maybe stay most up to date, you have like Twitter notifications, might be an easy way to do that. And then our YouTube, go to YouTube, search Nadex. That's going to be our Nadex YouTube channel. Actually, I think you can probably click on it right now. And this is where you're going to be able to see all of our different, let me turn that off. But you can see here we have a ton of different learning videos, ton of different webinars. We have live streams all the time, every morning. All of these are kept here, and so you can go learn a little bit more about Nadex. The recording of this webinar will be up on this channel probably in a couple hours. So that is going to be the end of the webinar. Let's see if we have any other questions come in. I'll leave it open for just a couple more seconds to get any final questions. Wow, so many great features and benefits. Great webinar. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I'm always hoping that these are helpful. So thanks for the kind feedback. It doesn't look like we're getting any other questions in here, and I think we are almost 20 minutes over our time here. So I will let you all go here today if we don't have any more questions in. So yeah, I guess last and only other thing to say here today is I hope all of you out there have a great time. I hope all of you out there are enjoying the summer that's quickly coming on. We're up here in Chicago, so we're just now getting summer, and man, it is glorious. I cannot wait to go outside. Yeah, other than that, everyone, best of luck in all your trading. I hope you are all successful in all of your trading, both at Nadex and everywhere else. And I will see you all next week.